Hey folks, Colin here from Something's Recording. Today I've got a quick tip for you. I'm going to show you one move for an instantly fatter snare drum sound. There's a pretty typical workflow that you're going to follow with drums. When you mic up a kit, when you're recording a full drum kit, usually what you're going to do is you're going to flip the phase on your bottom snare, right? We have our snare top, we have our snare bottom mic, and then we have our overheads. We're going to have some kind of phase issues in there at some point, right? With all of these different mics capturing the same sound. Now you usually flip the phase on your snare bottom because we have two mics that are pointing at each other, so inevitably they're going to be out of phase because you're hitting the snare, the signal's going down and back up, so you have your waveform being captured opposite ways by these two mics. The usual route you go is you flip the phase on your bottom snare to put your snare mics in phase and get that low end back on your snare drum, right? Let me show you this. Let me solo up our snare. Actually, no, we'll start here. I'll show you the full picture at the end, okay? We're going to start. I'm going to solo up our snare drum. Take a listen. This is without the phase flipped, so you're going to hear our snare drum is lacking a lot of that weight and punch that we want because the signals are out of phase on our mics. Now the route you usually go, as I was saying, is that you flip the phase on your bottom snare. Now that puts our snare top and our snare bottom mic in phase. So take a listen to how it sounds now. So now our mics are in phase and we have that fatness on our snare drum. But the deal is our snare top mic is still out of phase with our overheads because of the distance between our snare mic, which is capturing a signal up close, right? It's a spot mic, and then our overheads are capturing a full picture of the kit. So inevitably our snare top is going to be out of phase with our overheads as well. So we can flip the phase on our snare bottom and get our snare mics in phase, but they're still going to be out of phase with our overheads. Now we can come up here and we could flip our overheads, but then we have to go through and deal with the phase issues we're going to have on our toms, and we're going to have to keep flipping things till we get everything in phase. The secret, the quick move you can make to easily get your snare drum instantly fatter is instead of flipping the bottom mic, to flip the top mic. This is going to get your snare mics in phase, and then your kit is going to be in phase as well because your snare mic is going to be in phase with your overhead mics. Okay? So our snare bottom, our snare top are pointing at each other. They're out of phase. So we're going to flip our top mic to put our spot mics in phase. And then, since we flipped our top mic instead of our bottom mic, now our top mic is in phase with our overheads as well. So nothing's out of phase. We don't have to flip a bunch of things. We're flipping one mic, just our snare top, and we're getting our snare mics in phase as well as our overheads and snare in phase. Let me show you what the difference is. So you can flip your bottom mic and it'll put your snare in phase. This is what that sounds like. It sounds decent, right? We have some low-end fatness on our snare. But if we flip our top mic, now our snare mics are in phase and they're in phase with our overheads. So we're going to get that little bit of extra oomph, that little bit of extra fatness on our snare drum. Take a listen. By flipping our top mic instead of our bottom, we get everything in phase with each other and we get all of the fatness, all of that low end punch that we can out of these mics. Quick review here, we'll go from where we started to where we ended. So we'll start with our snare mics out of phase with each other as well as the overheads. Then I'll flip our snare bottom. You can hear what it sounds like with just our snare mics in phase. And then I'll show you, I'll flip our top instead of our bottom. You can hear what it sounds like when everything's in phase. starting without anything flipped. Hear that extra low end punch, that extra weight we get by flipping our top mic instead of our bottom mic? That's because our entire snare drum is now in phase with our overheads, rather than just our two snare mics being in phase with each other. Let me do that one more time for you, and we'll finish up by putting the drums inside the track. So we'll start with our bottom mic flipped, okay? So this is the usual way you're gonna do things, right? You're gonna flip your bottom mic to get your snare mics in phase and mix your kit from there. Then I'll flip to our top mic, okay? So inverting the phase on our top mic instead of our bottom mic. So everything's in phase. Our snare mics are in phase and they're in phase with our overheads. So starting with our bottom flipped. This way we get that extra low end weight that we want on our snare drum. We don't have to go in, we don't have to endlessly boost low end, we don't have to put distortion on or pull in some kind of special plugin to create some low end harmonics on our snare drum. They are there from the get-go because all of our mics are in phase. And then we can get our kick and our snare sitting just as powerfully with each other because they're gonna have that low end punch, that extra fatness. Let's put the drums in the whole song here, and I'll show you what it sounds like inside our whole mix with our bottom flipped and then with our top flipped instead of our bottom. So we'll start without anything flipped. So we'll start with out of phase, then we'll put our snare mics in phase, and then we'll switch to everything in phase. You can hear how flipping the top mic gives us that full picture, that fatness that we want on our snare drum. Here's without anything flipped, everything out of phase. Obviously out of phase, it's a very flat sounding snare mic, right? Terrible sounding snare drum, it doesn't compete in the song. If we put our snare mics in phase, we get a little bit more, right? It's something that we could work with. We just have to boost some more low end, maybe add some extra harmonics in there with distortion, or the Waves plugin, I can't remember which one it was, or our bass, add some extra low end harmonics. But if we flip our top mic and get our snare in phase with our overheads, we get that extra low end punch, and we get something that's gonna be reliable, it's gonna be fat, and it's gonna be consistent, it's gonna be powerful, it's gonna punch through this mix. Just a quick one here for you today, guys. I hope that was helpful for you. Before you go, I do want to give you a gift for sticking with me for this video. This is my 7-step mixing checklist. It is a free download. You can download it using the link in the description. It's a free resource that I want you to have. It will guide you through the mixing process step by step to get you radio-ready mixes without the hassle and without the guesswork. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.